Welcome to another episode of Sports and Discourse with your host, Derek Stevenson. And today I got a special guest caller with me, my man from social media, Big A, Anthony Richardson. What's up, big dog?
What's up, my man? What's
Hey,
up?
hey, man, listen. Um, I know we haven't never had the pleasure of meeting in real life yet, but I have found you to be one of the most interesting people that I've actually interacted with on social media, and I was drawn to you. Initially, we had some back and forth. I don't know if you remember about like different gun laws and stuff like that, because that's kind of like my passion. And after we talked about that, then I started to look through your profile and see you was really big into farming, and it's almost like you have like a self-sustaining farm in your backyard, man. And
I do.
and I noticed that you was real big into sports, and you just seem to be a very interesting guy, man. Can you start off by giving the people a little bit of a background on yourself?
Okay. For those that don't know, I actually grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Graduated from Shawnee High School in '83. I guess I'm dating myself.
That was
I'm
the year I
actually
was born, by the way.
well, actually, I'm 56, but I consider myself a young 56. My
Right.
wife is like 40,
Got you. Got you.
so she keep me young.
That's what's up.
And go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's what's up right there. You got to stay young out here.
Yeah. I stay young, and but I graduated in 1983 from Shawnee High School and went to Murray State and played football for 2 years under Frank Beamer before he went to Virginia Tech, and then I actually transferred to K State. So I was right there in your neck of the woods.
Right.
So this was in '85, '86 when I transferred over, and so I have a you know history there in that Lexington area. One of the things that I think you didn't mention is the Ultra Basketball League thing that you had reached out to me about, which was a startup that I just recently had to shut down over COVID. But
Yeah.
it started. I invented this game at the age of 16,
Yeah.
right there in Kentucky, and tried to market that thing in the Lexington area before I eventually moved to Florida.
Right. So you was way ahead of the game if you was thinking in that direction at age 16, right?
Oh yeah. I kind of made it I grew up playing electric football, and so a lot of my family and friends we played it a lot. And everybody, it'd be nice if we had a basketball game. And I don't know, I kind of locked myself in the basement one weekend and came out with a tabletop version of basketball.
Mm. So you decided to call it the Ultra Basketball League. So can you explain to me exactly what that is?
Okay, so Ultra is a miniature version of basketball, and so it's played as a tabletop game, but it was, and I say was because I had to shut it down here recently. It was a much expanded version of a tabletop game. Actually, it is 8 by 24 feet, so it's more like a stage or an
Right.
elevated. Uh, but when it started out, back when I first invented it, it was a small tabletop version of the game, very much like ping pong is a tabletop version of tennis or
Got
air
you.
hockey, baseball. And over the years, it kind of expanded into the size that it was.
Okay. So so I was looking through your blog because that's where I read about it. Your blog is Big A Knows It All on WordPress.com, correct?
Yep,
Right.
yep.
So it looks like what you were saying in the blog was you was actually trying to get this to be presented in malls across the country. Is that correct?
Exactly. That was part of the business plan as I was going to set up as a traveling show going from mall to mall. And I chose the malls because basically the malls have the infrastructure of like a basketball arena. It's got your parking, it's got your concession areas. And I was basically going to set up and put on a weekend event at malls throughout the region is what I was going to start here in the Southeast region.
Okay. And you basically like you wanted to have like what'd you say, a mobile on-court robot as a referee?
Yeah, yeah, we had and actually this started out with drones as the referees.
Oh, okay.
And as I started pitching this to malls to set up in malls, would, well, actually, from a liability standpoint, they just would not let me use drones flying around in the mall for liability issues. I even found drones that had the blades covered to make it safer, and which I still like a lot. And I think you'll see drones in sports in the future to get that better bird's eye view. I can almost assure you that. But I then had to move to robots as drones, as referees. And the robots, if you go to, Big A knows it all, like you said, you'll see videos of it's actually, I don't know if Star Wars fans, it's actually a BB-8
Oh,
that
okay.
I
Yeah.
turned it into a basketball and put a camera in his head. And it would allow the person that's officiating the game to wear FPV goggles and basically manipulate the robot on the court and get the view of as if a human was on the court with the players.
Hmm. That sounds super interesting, man. So you was basically so how does it work? You said that like you would join a league, right? And
Well, the way it was marketed is you would actually join the Ultra Basketball League. So, in other words, you would pay a fee. And
okay.
as we traveled from city to city, you could come and play in the Ultra Basketball Arena
Okay.
against other people who had already been members. And it was designed to be a more of a relaxed league. As I started test marketing this thing and interviewing people, I found out that we were marketing this to people in their later 20s, 30s, and older. People, you work a full week, you don't really have time like the normal league that we're used to seeing. Like if you played in a basketball league somewhere, you'd have to practice 2 times during the week to get ready for games. Even if you played in a softball league, you still have to practice.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do was have something that you could come out just on the weekends. This ain't something you would have to practice and spend so much time after work learning to join these leagues. And there was going to be 3-point contests and horse competitions as well as the 2-man teams. And it would allow you to do this without having to spend so much time practicing with all the things that people have to do nowadays. We found out that leagues are starting to lose their luster, bowling leagues and things of that nature, because people just have the time to commit to it on a weekly basis. I wanted something where you come in town for the weekend, you can spend that weekend playing, enjoying, winning prizes, cash prizes as well. And it was something that didn't take that long time commitment like your traditional league.
Okay. So ultimately you were trying to launch this around what time? Around 2018, if I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I launched in 2018, and actually, I launched with a Kickstarter campaign to raise funds to set up my first 4 events because it was centered around setting up at these world class sporting events, setting up there in Louisville for the Kentucky Derby, setting up here in Atlanta for the Super Bowl, which was in Atlanta that year,
Okay.
setting up at the Final Four, these big, huge sporting events. We would set up in a local mall in these cities and put on these nice weekend events.
Oh yeah, man. That would have been something to see right there, brother. So so you continue to try to get this off the ground, and ultimately you said that you had to end up stopping the campaign.
I had to stop it. I was paying for it out of pocket, or bootstrapping, as they call it,
Got you.
and I could not find an investor. And this was before the pandemic hit. It was, I was struggling, trying to get this thing off the ground, and paying for it out of pocket can get expensive. And when COVID hit, I was basically looking to make a last ditch effort at a mall here in Atlanta for the Final Four. And when they canceled the Final Four, the 2020 Final Four, it essentially it put me out of business. There's no way I could continue with a business plan during COVID that I was going to set up at malls. Basically, the malls were shut down after they down the Final Four, and it just from a financial standpoint. And I keep in mind, Derek, this is my life's work, bro. I invented this thing when I was 16 years old.
Right.
So having to shut it down was not an easy decision.
Yeah, man, I bet. After so many
It was,
years of,
yeah,
just
it was
grinding and trying to get it off the ground.
right and evolved. And I keep in mind, for most of the time that I started, when I first moved to Florida, I started out making like sports themed furniture. So if you get the game and the size it was as you saw it as ultra, when I originally made it, it was just 3 by 2 feet. That's the size of a foosball table.
Got you.
I first moved to Florida, people weren't even feeling it as a game. Everybody was, oh man, this looks so sharp. Can you make me a coffee table that looks like a basketball court, or a desk that looks like a football field? And that's what I've done for over a decade.
Oh, okay.
And the whole time telling people, yeah, but it's a game. Yeah, but it's a game.
Right.
And, but I was making good money making sports themed furniture, and I got good at building. And a lot of times what I was doing was going to a Goodwill or Salvation Army and get a coffee table or a desk and just recondition it and then put the surface of the desk or the coffee table as a basketball court or football field. And I done real well with it. And it wasn't until 2014, I'm giving a little bit of back history. So I worked at Enterprise Rent a Car down in Miami area for about 20 years. And when they bought, Enterprise owns National and Alamo. I don't think a lot of people know that. But when they did buy National and Alamo Rental, I had profit sharing in the company. And after 20 years, our profit sharing kind of, let's just say, got kind of lucrative.
Right.
Enough for me to take my money out of the company. And then I had the money and the time to work on ultra basketball full time. And at the same time, I went back to school to start getting my degrees that I never finished when I was young.
Okay. So,
And
can
go
you
ahead.
give me a little bit of a background on your education? Because you have several degrees now, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, okay, so and all of these I actually got around at age 50. So I got my undergraduate degree from Florida International down in Miami. In marketing, is a split, marketing and logistics. And while I was now test marketing and building prototypes for the Ultra Basketball League, I went straight from there to probably one of the top entrepreneur programs in the country. And I've done it online at the University of Maryland. And actually, the Ultra Basketball League was my dissertation, or it was my study in that
Okay.
entrepreneur program.
Okay.
And so I test marketed and ran it under my professors there at the University of Maryland. And that program is designed for people working on startups.
Uh,
And I also have a MBA in sports revenue generation
right.
from Nova Southeast. So I kind of, on the last 7 years or so, just walked away and probably done an education that I could have done at 18 if I was actually serious about going to school at 18 instead of just playing football.
Yeah, man. A lot of people just aren't really serious at that age. Man, I know I definitely wasn't.
I know I wasn't either. I could have done good, and I graduated with honors out of all of my programs, and probably could have done this at 18 or 19 when I came out of high school if I was mature enough to take my time, go through all my studies, and do my time management like I done at an older age. Again, a lot of times that kind of maturity don't come till later in life.
Yeah,
To
it
be
really
honest.
doesn't, man.
Yeah.
Um, so so you when you decided to shut down your ultra basketball league, you ended up making a very interesting transition, and you ended up becoming the City-Fied Farmer, correct?
Yeah,
So
I
tell
certainly did.
me how that happened.
Okay, so and again, I think me and you had discussed, for anybody who wants to see the detailed version of what happened, you can go over to Big A Knows It All, and I have a blog on there called "One Day I Woke Up a Farmer," and it kind of walks you through the whole process. But I'll give you the skeleton version of it. So to be honest with you, I guess I was a little depressed. Let's just cut to the chase.
Right.
Man, I had worked my ass off trying to get this ultra basketball league thing going and went through a lot of money. Trust me, trying to get this thing going. And, you know, it's a hard thing to accept, man. I mean, failure is a normal part of life. But when you put the kind of effort I put into this thing, and I had to sit down to the realization that there ain't no more of this, I got to cut it off and move on. Like I said, it was tough to deal with. But at the same time, my wife wanted to uh, build raised beds here at the house, just to make the house look nicer. We bought kind of a plain house, and she had these ideas in mind that I want to put a garden in the back, raised beds in the front, all around the side of the house. And of course, she had me here to build
Okay.
it.
And this is in Atlanta, correct?
This is in Atlanta, Marietta, actually, right outside
Okay.
suburb of. So, of course, I did not take to this in the beginning as if I was just all fired up to do it.
Right.
I was actually building these raised beds as crunchy as a bag of potato chips, pissed off the whole time out in this hot sun.
I bet.
And I call myself the City-Fied Farmer because I'm scared of most bugs and don't like sticking my hand in dirt.
Oh, I don't either, man.
So over the time that I was building these things, well, from the beginning, me and my wife were supposed to be building them together, and my wife broke her foot the first day we started working on
Man, that's wild.
it.
So,
So I was stuck with building all of this stuff myself. I couldn't leave my wife hanging. We got a driveway full of lumber and cement blocks to build all this stuff, and so I jumped out there. I had shut down. Um, my startup, so I really didn't have anything to do. I wasn't doing nothing but sitting here moping.
right.
And so I said, well, okay, to kind of keep my mind off stuff, just let me work on this stuff and go ahead and get it done. And over time, bro, I started getting into this stuff. And my big thing is technology too, as you can see with the ultra basketball. And I guess I started seeing, well, we can put technology in this farming stuff. And I was always into sustainable energy, solar power and stuff like that. So I kind of, in the process of doing this farming stuff, I guess I kind of merged what I always liked doing anyway, the technology, and everything just kept building on. And I had to learn so much about plants and stuff as we were building this, because I knew nothing about plants at all. And over time, I think it was a real good place for me to be after dealing with shutting down the Ultra Basketball League. And then when this COVID thing came in, bro, let me put this out here just so everybody knows, because that's actually in the blog a big statement that I made. Everybody that's dealing with this pandemic is going through a certain level of depression.
I totally agree
Now,
with that.
for some people, it might be bad enough where you consider killing yourself. For me, mine was, it was just, I wasn't sleeping all day in the bed. I was just sluggish. And I'm a sociable person who likes being around people. And when I was sequestered in the house and couldn't go out and see anybody, nobody could come here, I think this gardening and building this farm here at our house, I think it kept me sane, bro. I think it kept me sane. I had something to do every day. I had to
Right.
learn something to do every day. And I was kind of, like I said, I was kind of jacked up about the fact that I saw now that, I might have, I could use some of my technology here. And so I kind of infuse what would be a normal garden at somebody's house with a lot of different technologies that I've been studying, basically for the Ultra Basketball League, and put it into a farm setting. So, I've got sensors in the beds to tell me what the pH balance of the soil is, how moist it is, and rainfall accounts that I could check on my phone. I put a digital weather station back to give me some kind of historic data about what the weather's like. Because when you got as much stuff as we've got, you got to keep up with weather. You got to be a weatherman too. So, and over time, man, I built a greenhouse. We just, it evolved into something that kind of helped me, I guess, self-esteem wise. Let's get to the chase. And I know people don't like to talk about self-esteem and mental health, and especially in the Black community. But I got to tell you, man, I don't want to say that this saved me like I was ready to jump off a bridge or something. But man, when you got days and weeks at a time where you don't see other people,
Yeah.
you something, man, to divert your mind. And I think this came to me at the right time.
Yeah, it
And
kind
so,
of repurpose
yeah,
things for you, right?
exactly. And so over time, it just kind of felt right over time. And again, I went into a kicking and fighting, trust me, bro. I went into a kicking and fighting, but
Yeah.
over time now, it's so me. I don't really know what life would be like without it. And so it has evolved into now where I've got people asking me to consult them on building their garden at their homes, because what I do is urban sustainable farming. I ain't got crops running, as far as you can see. I live on a 3/4 acre lot in a very nice suburban area. And now I'm putting together what are sustainable farm land in people's backyard, mostly in raised beds, and giving you enough food to grow what I consider is a cache of emergency food. I think people saw during this pandemic, when you go to a grocery store and there ain't no food on the shelves, that's panic time,
Yeah,
because it don't make
definitely.
how much money. It don't make a difference how much money you got. If it ain't no food in the store to buy, you got problems.
Right.
And what I found out is that when the pandemic hit, me and my wife didn't panic at all. We had collard greens and cabbage and stuff right here in the backyard. Over time, I've learned how to freeze stuff. So I've got peppers and onions and stuff that we grew during the summer season. We freeze them in a deep freezer, and it's turned into a year-round thing for us. And now I'm evolving into teaching other people how to do it. Setting up solar power at your house as well, not putting all this stuff on the roof of your house, just a few panels in your backyard for emergency power. If your power go out for 3 or 4 hours, to be able to keep going until the power come back on is really what most people need. Just
Right.
living off the grid, just living off the grid like a lot of people try to claim they want to do is way more difficult than you think it is.
Oh, I can only imagine, man.
Yeah. But to have and to be able to assist it, I have a little bit of solar power here, like I said, to assist if the power goes out. Again, I'm not claiming that we don't go to the grocery store anymore, but we've got enough food with 500 square feet of raised beds here that we have lowered our food costs by around 30%.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
uh
So,
Man, I looked at a lot of your pictures, man, and I was like blown away at like your farm system, man. It to me, like I want to ask you, like, did you have days where you were just like super frustrated and wanted to stop? Because it seems like that's so much of a process that it would take forever. Like I can't even imagine getting to that level that you got to.
yeah, yeah. Well, I got to tell you, again, when you're stuck in a pandemic and it ain't really nothing else you can do, you can take your time. And when I say frustrated, bruh, like I said, but I'm telling people to go read the blog, a big blow up that me and my wife had. Now, I don't know how to build none of this stuff, and I don't know anything about growing stuff when I first started this. Man, I snapped one day out there. We trying to build these beds, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Hire somebody who know how to do it. It's like I've had some days, man, where it's like in this hot sun, this old Georgia sun, was a different kind of hot. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And it, but again, all of this stuff, as just like I did when I played football on them days where we running sprints in this heat, it makes you better. It makes you more patient. Um, and that's what I think. Uh, the whole process of it. You talk about some frustrating days, but it makes you more patient. I thought for me, the best life lesson that I've had with anything that I do as so-called for fun is playing chess. Chess has taught me patience and how to think out every move before you do it. You know, it helps you in life. Gardening has been very much the same thing, that you have to plan stuff out. Everything ain't going to work. You got to experiment with stuff. You got to be okay with planting a whole bed full of stuff and it all go bad. And you just got to pull it up and put something else there next time. Next thing you put there may grow, grow to be beautiful. You put something else there just a year before and it all died. So you got to, it's frustrating as hell sometimes. But I'm going into year 4, starting 2022. I'm a real fast learner, and I've always said once I do something 3 times, then I got it down pat.
Right.
So I'm finishing up year 3. So if I'm gonna call myself an expert, it's gonna start somewhere in the middle of year 4. But I'm still learning now, man. This ain't easy, man. And
Yeah, I can tell. It looks super complicated, man.
it's really not. I think once we get to where we are now, me and my wife, with all the work we've done, it's really a 15 or 20-minute commitment a day.
Oh, okay.
Now it's, you have, I'd say there's 4 or 5 days out of a year, and I put it up on Facebook. You say, because there's some days this just feels like a job, bro. And it's about 4 or 5 days a year. Like when you're pulling up everything at the end of the season, when you're planting at the beginning. But I've got this thing fully automated now. I've got a water catch system now where I can catch about 1,500 gallons of water and put it on timers to water everything. I'm going to finish out an irrigation system to start next year. I've got mine fully automated. In other words, it gives me warnings on my phone if something's too dry and it needs to be watered, if I'm not getting enough rain. Um, so I've got this thing fully digitized and automated to make it much easier to deal with on a day-to-day basis. If somebody hired me to set this up for them, I go into it wanting them to know exactly what this commitment is. And do you want something where you only have to look at it 10 minutes a day, or are you willing to commit an hour, a day, or are you willing to do this? And I can set it up to make it as trouble-free as you want it to be. But you got to add the technology, and of course, it's going to cost more.
Yeah. See, that's the problem
Yeah.
with me because I would definitely be on the 10-minute a day track, but I'm also super cheap, man. So I wouldn't want to put too much money into the technology side of it. So it might just be something I couldn't get with, man.
Well, you probably just need a little smaller setup because a lot of people
Yeah.
don't see what I've got.
Yeah,
A
that's
lot of
true.
people have these grow bags or 10 of these grow bags and do 3 bags of tomatoes and some collard greens and another one. And that might be all you want. For a lot of people, if you're a husband and wife team, I tell a lot of people you may want the husband check it 15 minutes in the morning before he go to work, and then the wife check it 15 minutes when she come back.
Mm.
But it ain't a hour commitments every day. But it is some work, and it could be set up to be as trouble free as you want it to be.
Yeah. So when was that moment when you, cuz I know you had to have a moment where you just felt super proud and accomplished with your farm system, and when was that moment for you?
I'm gonna say I kind of have them, and I have different little moments. The first time that I knew that I was on to something is we had an event here at the house. I'm trying to think of when it was. This must have been uh, maybe the beginning of this year. And so we had what? So okay, this was it was beginning of this year. We had an event here where we had everybody here was vaccinated, and a lot of people hadn't seen the house since my launch party. My launch party was here at the house for the Ultra Basketball in 2018. And so a lot of people were here at our house who hadn't saw it since then. And they were blown away. I mean, I was proud of what I was doing, and I had been putting it up online and everything. But to have somebody walk through the yard and say, "How did you do this?" And my God, when did you do this? And how much time went into, the appreciation of having a human being look at your work was totally different than likes online. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just kind of swelled up with pride over this. And we actually had another get together, actually, this past weekend, Friday. My wife's boss is taking over a new job, and she's taking her role.
Oh,
And so we,
congratulations.
oh yeah, yeah. And she had a going away party for her here at our house. And the response that I got, because we've even made more progress, as you know, I'm building a house, a guest house here on the property as well.
Yeah.
You've seen the pictures of it, and people are going through the guest house, and me and my wife are kind of looking at each other like, "Oh, okay, okay." The response of humans, and this is another thing, and I want to put this out to the people listening. I'm totally focused on digital communication. Again, man, I'm an OG on the internet. I got on the internet for the first time, I think, 25 years ago on web TV. So trust me, I'm all with the social media thing. I love it. But
Right.
there's nothing like a human being sitting in front of you, looking at your work and saying, "Man, this is outstanding." Like I said, it's different than likes. It's
Right.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
man, I'm in. I mean, the feedback from people seeing what we're doing is just, I can't even explain the energy you get from it. It's just at another level.
Yeah, man. That's wonderful, man. Anybody that's listening, make sure you check out Big A's page, man, so you can see his farm, man. It is crazy, man. But to transition back to some sports talk, man. So you
Okay.
was you was telling me that you used to be a part of a recruiting service.
Yeah.
Can
Big
you,
three scouting.
okay, let's talk about that for a little bit, man. So how was that?
Okay. So now, again, this is the beginning. This is early 2000s. So this is the beginning of online recruiting services. What a bunch of them out there then. So the format was, as I was telling you off camera, these were basically high risk kids that could play, because they would send us their videotape, and we would put them together a highlight tape and put it in the hands of position coaches, or give anybody out there a little bit of advice. If you're trying to get into a school, and you've heard several people put together videotapes and sent them to schools, don't send them to the head coach. They don't look at anything. You got
Right.
to send a position coach. The
Got you.
position, he likes it, then he'll go to the head coach. Head coach don't want to hear nothing you got to say. So what we were doing was taking the videotape. My job as a talent evaluator was, if kids send in tape, I tell them, I want your senior year, I want your first game of the season, your last game of the season, and the middle game of the season, so I could see some progression in you. And we would take excerpts from these videotapes. My job was to decide whether this guy's a D1 prospect, whether he's a Division III prospect, NAIA, SWAC, HBCU, and my job was to sort out what his talent level fits and what coaches we need to get this videotape into their hands. So my job was to break down what level of player we were dealing with. And this was in baseball. I've done baseball, football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, all the different scholarship sports.
Okay.
And my specialty is basically breaking down skill set.
Right.
You know, generally, if, I don't need to be an expert in volleyball, but if you tell me to be a good volleyball player, you got to have good hand-eye coordination. You got to spring off the floor quick, and you got to have good lateral movement. Well, then I can look at a volleyball player and tell whether they're going to be good enough to go to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so you so what did you transition to after you did the recruiting?
So after recruiting, and I've done this for 5 years, um, I was doing both. Well, actually, I was burning the candle at four ends. So I was working at Enterprise Rent a Car during the day, and I was also breaking down film for the recruiting service. But I then also started a concierge business, and that's where I transitioned away from the scouting and recruiting. It was just taking up too much time, and went just working full time during the day at Enterprise Rent a Car. And then I had a pretty successful VIP concierge service for 12 years down in Miami.
Mm. So you was basically taking all the big wigs and getting all their getting them all accommodated when they was coming in town for the games and everything like that, big events.
Exactly. And for any of you that have been to Miami, the same thing would be out in Vegas or LA or any of these cities. If the club scene is tight, you can't just walk in a club. There's going to be a line outside the door and they kind of pick and choose who gets in. And you could call me in advance and I can get you through that line where you could get into all the best restaurants, all the tightest nightclubs, bottle service, and have that all set up for you so you don't have to wait. You don't have to deal with anybody. I
Got
would do all of that for you
you. Got you.
for a price, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So so you said when you were studying for one of your degrees, which one was it? The one that dealt with like sports business?
Uh, the MBA in
Okay.
sports revenue generation.
Sports revenue. Okay. So you have a whole lot of interesting information that I think when it comes to the business side of sports. And I think a lot
Mhm.
of it most people just have surface level information, myself included. So whenever you breaking down situations and stuff, you are always usually thinking about the business side of it. So you were giving me
Exactly.
a real interesting take about like the Ben Simmons situation. Can you
Mm.
explain that again for the people?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Ben Simmons, and for a lot of people, and I told you this also, I said that LeBron invented trade kickers. I'm saying I think the league invented trade kickers because of LeBron, because LeBron wanted, like a lot of the NFL players get, he wanted no cut contracts, meaning that you couldn't cut him. You had to come to him and ask him or trade him. You had to come to him and ask him permission to who to trade him to. So the NBA, trying to keep some of their control, went away from doing these in contracts altogether, and they replaced it with what's called a trade kicker. So Ben Simmons' contract has a 15% trade kicker in it. That's usually about the average for a good player. So what that trade kicker does is, if the team wants to trade you, they have to pay you 15% of your salary just to get rid of you. And so when you start looking at Ben Simmons' contract at, I think it's like at $170 million, when you figure out what 15% of that, a team don't want to get rid of him and then have to pay him 15% of his overall contract just to get rid of him. And
Right.
that was placed to kind of punish the team so that they won't just readily want to trade him just for any old reason. And then two, a lot of times in the negotiation, what a team like Philly is probably telling these other teams, well, do you want to pay his trade kicker too? And then we'll trade him. So this is
Right.
what people in place a lot of time when people are saying, well, they can just get rid of him. Why don't they just get rid of him? And this, and there are money considerations in a lot of these contracts that go beyond what we see, just, on the surface, because we just don't like a player. We want to get rid of him. And then two, how that works on their cap. Even if they just told Ben Simmons to just walk away, and let's just say they, okay, just leave the team. We'll pay your contract. We don't care. He still counts as $33 million of dead space on their cap. So in other words, they can't even go spend $30 million on another player because he counts as dead cap space.
Mm.
So there's a lot of different intricacies built in these contracts to prevent teams from just trading them, nonchalantly, like they don't want, like they want to. And the players know they have this kind of control. And I bring up LeBron James. I don't want to be considered anti-LeBron because he's been brilliant for giving power to the players. A lot of these things you see in these contracts now were put in to either take some of the power that LeBron was clearly exacting on teams when he went with the decision, either or to box players in where we can, basically get the league trying to get some of their control back. So it is contracts are constructed in a way where they are very difficult to move players. And that's for the player. The player wants to get all of their money. And in Ben Simmons, he's 15 just to get 15% of his contract of $170 million just to get put out of town.
Right. And you was also saying something about that's probably what's holding up the situation with Deshaun Watson down in Texas.
Deshaun Watson as well, who has a no trade contract. So Deshaun Watson, as much as the Texans want to get rid of him, it makes no difference. They got to go to Deshaun Watson and say, are you comfortable being traded to that team? Because he's got no trade in his contract. So who they trade him to is going to be Deshaun's decision, not the team.
Yeah, man. A lot of
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say a lot of that stuff, man. It would just be a lot simpler, but the way I agree with you. I think LeBron James had a whole lot to do with that, and I think it has made overall it's good to be a professional athlete nowadays. I believe, man. I,
Oh goodness, man! It is. They're making more money outside of the game than they are in the game. Most of these leagues went to a rookie salary cap because, they got tired of doing the Jamarcus Russell deal where you give somebody $55 million and then they just, you guarantee them $55 million. They just, I call it, it's the lottery ticket. I mean, if I hit a lottery ticket tomorrow, I'm not going to work the next day.
right. I wouldn't either.
And so when you give somebody a guaranteed $55 million contract, with the Jamarcus Russell deal. And that seemed to be when the NFL started ramping up. We need rookie salary caps and this and the other. And I think it's good for both sides because with the money they can make as social media influencers and stuff now, most of these players are making more money outside of the game, certainly in that first contract, the rookie contract, than they are on the rookie contract. The rookie contract is really not that important to players anymore. It's coming in and start making that social media money. You take this little money you get as a rookie contract, like Dak and like I call him Faker Mayfield, Faker Mayfield and Mahomes. They could care less what their contract was when they come in as a rookie. They're making more money in commercials. Then that second contract is when they tell them to back the Brinks truck up.
Right, and they have been too.
And they have been. Yeah, and they have been. But from the team standpoint, here's what they're saying. The team is saying, look, I got you on a discount for the first 3 or 4 years. If you prove to me in these first 4 years you were for Brinks truck, then I'll gas it up and bring it over.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to run you out. And one of those people who's sitting on that, and again, I've been accused of being a Lamar hater, Lamar Jackson, is he's sitting in that situation. It baffles me. He's using his mother as an agent, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah,
I felt like Lamar Jackson should already be a multi-millionaire. He should be $150 million man on just endorsements. This is what Faker Mayfield and Mahomes and Deshaun, before he got into this mess that he was in, Dak, this is what they're doing.
right.
And then what kind of pressure does that put on the team then? Dak is sitting over there saying, with a broken leg, look, I made $75 million last year in endorsements. You're going to have to give me more. I don't need your money like you think I do. And that makes them, well, I guess we better gas up the brakes truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you don't have that leverage on the other side, and that's starting to worry me about Lamar, that he's not getting all of this endorsement money like some of these other guys, although he didn't accomplish more than them. So those are the things you need to think about when the money side of the game is ruling the game now. I think a lot of fans look at it from a standpoint of, they're looking at it from the fan standpoint.
Yeah.
And you should be looking at it from the fan standpoint. but the money side of the game has changed it so much that, a lot of times I know I go with my brother who's a big Cowboys fan, and I told him that they were running into trouble by paying Amari Cooper all of this money and paying Ezekiel Elliott all this money. And then so they had to get a look at that. Well, CD Lamb's coming up next. He's going to want a boatload of money. Now, it ain't like we used to think. And again, and I'm saying when I came up, you had the same players on a team every year. There was no salary cap. The salaries were very much down and in line with what the team wanted to pay you.
Right.
But now, with the salary cap situation and some of these guys wanting $100, $200 million, you can't pay everybody. And you got to kind of manage who you're going to pay. And I've said that I thought that paying Amari Cooper that max money was going to be a problem. Now, he's not their best receiver now. CD Lamb is. Now what happens when CD Lamb comes up?
He's going to want more money.
He's going to want more. He's going to want more. And so, yeah, it's the contract side of the game and the business side of the game is really ruling what you see on the field now. It's not like I think when I look on social media, a lot of fans, they look at it from a fan's perspective. Like I said, you have to manage salaries with, like letting AB and who's the running back there? He's with I think he's with Baltimore now. The running back that sit out a year.
Talking about Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers couldn't pay both of them and then keep an offensive line together and keep a defense together. You almost have to be, in football with all of these salaries you have to pay, you almost have to pay for productivity. Meaning, if I can get two rookie running backs to give me, between two players, to give me 10 touchdowns and 1,500 yards a year, well, I'll just pay two rookie salaries than to give Le'Veon Bell 3 times what I'm going to pay two rookies. If I'm going to get the exact same numbers. Don't mean Le'Veon Bell ain't a good player, but you got to look at what productivity you get. Even if he's giving you 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns, well, if I can get that out of two players, maybe no one player can give me that. But if I can get two players to give me this kind of money for a third of what it's going to cost to pay Le'Veon, then we got to let Le'Veon go.
Yeah, it seems like that's happening a lot, especially with running backs.
Yeah, because they get too many miles on them too quick. Yeah, I agree.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, look, Big A, man, I think I'm going to go on and wrap this up, man. I really appreciated talking to you. I'm sure I'm definitely going to have you back on sooner or later, man. I enjoyed it so much, man. But before I let you go, man, you want to give any shout-outs or any plugs real fast?
Well, I want to first just thank you for having me on. Let me run my mouth and tell my little story. And of course, I hope you have me back. Actually, as I told you, there are a lot of different subjects on my blog that I would love to come back and talk. Name, image, and likeness is one of the ones that I actually wrote a piece on several years back. If any of you guys want to go on to the blog and look for the new landscape of college sports, I think you're going to find it as a cautionary tale and almost a prognostication of what you're seeing in sports now. And I wrote it several years back. But I want to thank you for stepping out there, man, and starting this podcast. And anytime you want to have me back, man, on any subject, don't hesitate to reach out to me, man. And I appreciate what you're doing, and I like your format and everything, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. It means a lot, brother.
Yep.
Well, all right, man. Well, we'll wrap it up here, man. I enjoyed it, man. I'll talk to you later, brother.
Later.
All right.
All right, bro.
Yes, sir.